Hello and welcome to the Telltale Podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Goldsmith, and today I'm here with the lovely Tiffi. We're going to be talking all about her story, her journey so far with her musical career, and I'm super excited for you guys to get to know a little bit more about her. So thank you again for joining me.
No worries. I'm so excited.
Awesome. So, obviously, like I usually do, I love to start off with my guests kind of telling us a little bit about themselves. So, I'd love to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tiffi. I'm 19. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I actually went to the same high school as Kayla, so that's cool. Um, yeah, I was born here. I was raised here. I'm Asian. Both of my parents are my dad's from Taiwan. My mom's from China. Um, yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter. That's what I do. And I love like playing video games in my spare time. I'm very average, to be honest, and I'm really excited to be talking to you. I've never done like an interview before, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I was looking up because usually before I interview a guest, I like to kind of see their previous interviews to kind of understand like the way that they interact and whatnot. But I couldn't find any. So I was like, oh my God, do we have a little exclusive here?
Yeah, I've never done an interview. I guess no one's ever asked me. I'm a bit of like I kind of live on like the in a corner on the internet, so yeah.
Well, I'm very honored to have the first kind of sneak peek as well because I know you're kind of constantly creating new content and music, and a lot's kind of happening for you in the future, which is exciting.
Yes.
So hopefully, this is like the first interview, and then they'll always come back to it like this was Tiffy's first interview. All right. So, growing up, was music something you'd always wanted to pursue? Because obviously, you started writing and producing and creating at quite a young age, so it had to have probably been something that's been
So,
ongoing.
it's kind of interesting because I have three older siblings, and my parents put the oldest two in like piano lessons, violin lessons, all that stuff. But actually, when it came to me and my brother, we didn't actually do any of that. So I've never been like formally trained. I never learned an instrument in classes or anything like that. Everything I know about music is just stuff that I've found on the internet or like from my siblings and stuff like that. So as a kid, it wasn't really encouraged to me like doing music as a career. Actually, it's not something that like people really ever think is viable in life, I guess, because it just seems a bit out of touch, like a bit out of reach, you know what I mean? Um so yeah, like I always liked singing. I was always like really into that stuff. It was just always a hobby. Like I never, even up until my last year of high school, I was like, oh, 100% like I'm going to uni, like I'm not, you know, it's just like a hobby. So I never like considered it as something serious, but I always loved it, and like people always knew me as like the one that sang and stuff like that. But yeah, like I never even like learnt an instrument or anything like that. So I think that me being in music right now is like kind of a miracle. Like I don't even really know how it happened because I'm like so untrained and stuff like that. I just got super lucky, and yeah, the way that I came up was like really interesting. I don't know. It's just I feel like a lot of people don't come up the way that I do, but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it was quite organic though as well, the way that it happened, which is really cool as well. And it has a lot to do with kind of the changing times that we're living in. I think it's making it a lot easier for artists to kind of get out there, which is a really good thing, but I guess it's also a double-edged sword in some ways. So we can talk about that a little bit later for sure. But I am quite curious. I mean, you said that you were kind of at the end of high school, you were still kind of considering going to uni. Did you feel like it was the pressure of kind of everyone around you also going? Because I mean, I know we both went to the same school. The selective school pressure is definitely there, and I think that's kind of like the typical traditional path for a lot of people our age. But yeah, how was that? How was kind of navigating that and I guess figuring out and being confident enough to kind of make your own decision to go your own way?
What it was really was I just felt like this kind of feeling of like I was letting my parents down, and I was letting like all my friends down and stuff like that by not doing what I felt like I should have been doing. And even like explaining it to like my to the like career counselor, like it just didn't really make sense because jobs on the internet really exist nowadays, and it's like hard to explain that to somebody who's like not in our generation, like who wouldn't understand. And like that's not like their fault, but it's hard to make people see that it's a thing that you can do. Like, even people who like want to be YouTubers or like social media influencers, like how do you explain that to your parents? And like how do you explain that like, oh, like eventually like if you work on it and if you have a following, like you can, it's like a job industry. It's really hard to like explain that to people. So I was kind of struggling with that myself, and I felt like the way that like immigrant parents and stuff are about it, it's like, oh, like having a degree opens up every door, like opens, the only way that you can get a job is with a degree and stuff like that. But things are so different nowadays, and like having a degree is so, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm going to use the word basic. Like everybody has one. And it's like, that's not what people like employees even really look at nowadays, because it is like a prerequisite. Like everybody has one. So yeah. And I was like, I was really considering like going to uni to like study like English or like, I don't know, because like I have other interests, obviously, but school was always just so hard for me. Like, just really, really hard. Like during high school, like I had like undiagnosed like ADHD, and I also so confused, like, oh, why can I never focus on stuff? Why do I feel like, like paperwork and stuff like that is so just draining, and I just couldn't. Like I was so late on all of my assignments, and all of my teachers like were worried about me, and it was just so difficult, and I don't think that I could have put myself through that again with uni like twice. So yeah, I decided to go my own way, and like my parents were like so against it at first, but once you sit down with them and like try to explain to them like, oh, I'm really like trying to make this work, like I'm not messing around or whatever, and like um I think they will come around eventually, because they want what's best for you and stuff like that.
Definitely. And I think it's a great thing that you kind of follow that path and hopefully it continues to work out for you as well. So obviously we'll go back again to like the beginning of your music career. You started at 13, I think, if I'm correct with that.
Yes.
Yep. So you were uploading songs to SoundCloud first, and SoundCloud is kind of like a really great platform, I think, for introducing a lot of like indie artists to the scene. But what kind of inspired you, and did you anticipate gaining the reach that so many of your songs have had? Because I think it was really quick, a really quick kind of rise, ascent.
Mm. So the way actually the way that I started posting on SoundCloud is actually a really stupid reason. So I think I was in year 7 or something. I just turned 13. There was somebody in like an older grade or something that I like, I just thought it was a guy. I thought he was so cute, and he was one of those like SoundCloud sleuths that like those people who like they're too like cool, like they're not mainstream, they don't use Spotify, they use SoundCloud to find their music. They were one of those, and I was like, what is this? Like, just I don't know, like, ooh. So I made a SoundCloud, and like I followed him, and I was like looking through his music and stuff. But like honestly, like I fell in love with it. I was so excited. And like during that time, it was really like a golden era of SoundCloud. Like everybody was super close, like everyone was super tight. Like I think nowadays like SoundCloud is a bit less cool, but back then it was really cool. um yeah, and then I think he had followed me or something, and I was like, okay, well, the only way that things are gonna happen is if I start posting stuff. So I like posted like some like covers and stuff like that, and like yeah, I posted like literally a song that was like 50 seconds long, and it got the attention of so many people, like MXM Toon, like Love Sad Kid, like a bunch of these like really, really famous like indie artists now. But back then, like we were just all kids. Like I met Maya MXM Toon when she was a sophomore in high school. So she was in year 10. And like, yeah, we were like just kids and like messing around and stuff like that. And I don't really know how it happened. And like at that time, like I remember when that 50-second song hit 1,000 plays, my friend baked me a cupcake. Like that is how excited we were. Like we thought we were famous. Like I really thought like I was that rush. I like never felt it again, because now when I put songs up, like, like give it a couple hours, like it'll have a thousand plays. But like back then it was so, I had never ever encountered any sort of like internet success or anything. And like I've never had people like care about like the stuff that I was doing, because and there was a song that I wrote myself, and I was so proud of it. And it was just so fun. And like, I don't know, I just kept uploading things, and like every day before school, I'd go check my computer and like see if anybody like messaged me. Like I was so excited. And like sometimes I look back on that and like I wish that I could have that feeling again. It's kind of like when you watch a movie for the first time or like read a book for the first time, like you wish that you could go back and read it again for the first time, because I haven't felt that feeling in such a long time, because it was like mixed with like this childlike like wanderlust, and like I was so excited, you know, I really felt like people like cared about me. Yeah, and then so the song that I uploaded that like went really viral, I actually have no idea how that happens. Like I don't know. Like I there are no statistics that I can look at that can tell me. It just did. And yeah, I got really lucky. Like I didn't pay any money, like I didn't do anything algorithmically. I didn't make TikToks. I didn't do anything. Like I just put it up there and it lived its own life and it had its own journey. And you know, like just between you and I and all the people listening, I hate that song so much, but I honor what it did for me. And like I'm proud of it because, you know, back then when I wrote it, I was those were things that I felt. And maybe I wouldn't say it the way that I said it then, and maybe I wouldn't sing it the way that I sang it then, but you know, I have to honor that part of me. And even though I really am kind of embarrassed of it, like I'm not gonna take it down because like it's it was part of me. It's not who I am anymore, but it's like it was, you know, who I used to be. So yeah, I was totally not anticipating any of the traction or anything. I really just felt like it was something I was doing for fun. And like, yeah, it was so little, like it was so small. Like it was just a little thing that I did that my friends knew about, that people would tease me about sometimes, and that's it. Like I didn't think that anything was going to happen from it. And I definitely was not thinking that it was going to turn into like a career or anything. Like that was just so crazy. And I was in school at that time. So it's like, it was so unfathomable. And yeah, I got so lucky. And I'm really glad that it happened like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, like you were kind of saying, obviously that like it's that song was very much who you were back then, I guess. But I think that's kind of like the beauty of discographies. I guess like you kind of get to see the growth of an artist, and I think it kind of it shows how much you've grown now as well. I think in terms of your songwriting and in terms of like the production and everything. I mean, you already had so much talent back then, but I guess that kind of it's really nice to see all the time. And I guess for you,
Yeah.
even just to look back at it and kind of it takes you back to a time. I think that's something beautiful about music too. Like a
Yeah.
song can sometimes remind you of like a time period or like an experience. And so, yeah, I think that's really cool. So, you know, in terms of writing a song, do you feel that the creative process that you follow has evolved? And I mean, we've kind of touched on this, obviously. But what kind of ways have you kind of, I guess, changed or upped your game when it comes to writing a song or approaching that?
So back in the days. I mean, even still now, I make music at in my bedroom at my computer, like literally the exact thing that the microphone that I'm speaking to right now is where I made all of my songs. And the producers that I used like that I worked with or still work with or I used to work with mainly, they're all like people online, like people I've never met. They live in California, they live in, I don't know, Denmark. Like I don't know them. Like I know them, but I have never met them and stuff like that. So nowadays, like I've been doing a lot more in-person sessions, like going actually into studios and stuff like that, which is really cool, but it's very different. Like when you do stuff online, like you do it in your own time, you can listen to it on the bus, you can, you know, write it in pieces and put it together and export the demo or whatever. If they message you to be like, hey, where is this, you can ignore it if you want to, you know. But now it's like if I'm sitting in front of somebody, it's like there is that pressure to like, you know, deliver, like make something, think of something. And if they're like, oh, do you like this, do you not like this, you don't have time to think about it. Like you have to, you know, you're right there, they're right in front of you, so that there is that pressure as well. But yeah, I think in general, like the way that I write music has changed a lot because of just I'm just such a different person now. And when I was younger, I had this like weird notion of like, I don't know, I was like stuck in this like indie girl SoundCloud wholesome, like cute thing that I used to be into, which is fine. But anyways, it's followed me around and it's cursed me forever. Um, but it's like even like the words that I use, because I've like read so many different things now, met so many different people, and like actually had experiences. Because when I was younger, you know, when you write songs when you're a bit younger, like you haven't really been through anything. So you just kind of write what you think it's like, or like how it's supposed to be, or like what it looks like in movies. And now, you know, I write about things that actually happened to me. like, yeah. And so it is different like that. But also I sometimes look back at the music I used to write and like I'm sort of like amazed with myself, like amazed with that a little preteen girl like did that and like wrote that, because I could never write that now because I've just changed so much. And it doesn't mean it's bad. It's like sometimes I look back and I'm like, this is really good, but like I could never do this now. Like, how did I do that? And it kind of feels like really surreal, like that sort of separation. But in certain ways, like sometimes I'll be writing a song and I'll think of a line or like write a little melody and I'm like, that sounds like something that the old me would have written. And I say the old me very loosely because it's still part of me. But um nowadays I think I'm really trying to stray away from that image that I created when I was younger, because I don't feel like it's really me anymore. So yeah, in those ways my writing process and stuff like that has really changed, because yeah, I've moved from doing stuff online more to in person, and also just that I'm writing things that are more true to myself than they used to be, because back then I think it just comes along with being a teenager. You want people to like you. You want to have an image that like makes people like you. You want to be likable. But nowadays I think I'm just leaning into the fact that it's okay to be unlikable. Like it's okay to be like to do bad things, or like to be somebody that isn't what society wants you to be, or like what you're supposed to be. Like who cares at that point? It's whatever. Like I think people are tired of listening to like clean cut music anyway, so like just write whatever you want, like be whoever you want to be. And like that is something that I really learned over the years. So yeah, my writing is definitely different now because I stopped pandering towards what other people want and I just write whatever I want.
For sure. I can definitely see how that would affect your songwriting. But I'm also quite curious to know, like, when you approach a song, do you kind of come with a melody in mind, or like a kind of like inspo for it, or are you kind of just like on the go, like you might hear a beat and then you kind of create from that, or just kind of like bounce off the people in the room or people that you're working with?
So yeah, there's like a couple ways to go about it. If it's just me and my guitar, like I normally start with chords and like an idea. I'm sure like people like songwriters always tell you to like write little notes down on your phone and stuff like that, like phrases you come across, all that good stuff. But there's also like writing to track, like if you have a beat already, and then you hum little melodies over it, and then you write the music. Sometimes like while I'm writing the song, I'm like trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, like what am I saying here, like what is the song about really. And sometimes what the song is about just really comes down to like how like phonetically the words sound. Like sometimes you have like a rhythm and you want like to match words with it that phonetically sound nice, and then you kind of develop the meaning around that, or sometimes you start with the meaning and then you develop the words around that. So yeah, it comes about a lot of different ways. It's like raising a kid, like every single one is different. You do it in different ways, you kind of adapt. Yeah, and that's like why it's exciting, because it's like different every time. And like I just really love it. It's like the most fun part out of making a song. Like writing it is definitely the most fun part, and then recording it is the most dreadful part. It is the most just time consuming. Just I hate that part, but writing it is like definitely like the best part of it.
100% agree. Like I get that
Yeah.
completely. um, but I mean, yeah, so kind of like going back, I guess, again to Peppermint Smiles, which is like your first kind of big song. That like now has like over 11 million plays, which is crazy. That like, you were kind of balancing and juggling high school at the same time, which was like a lot. And I mean, you've kind of spoken about how kind of your friends knew and people around you knew. How was kind of balancing that experience? Was it enjoyable? Was there times where you wished like no one knew about it? Like balancing your studies as well. Like, did you ever like come to a point where you were like, I don't want to study anymore. Like, I just want to like drop out, like do my music thing, or anything like that. I'm really curious to know.
Yeah, it was so difficult because the thing is, like, at once I was getting more and more popular, like by the time I was like in year 12, I had like, I don't know, like 150,000 monthly listeners. Um, and it was just so weird that people like cared about me on the internet, and I felt so not famous, but I felt so like heard. And then I would go to high school and I just felt so small. Like I just felt so insignificant and so stupid. Like I just, you go there, you have to do everything that people tell you. You have to do all of the things that everyone else has to do. Like we all hand in the same assignments, we all, do the same speeches. It was like I just felt like the contrast or like the juxtaposition of that made me feel really confused and like really confused about my self-worth because at the on one hand, like I felt so gassed up, like I felt so like, like I feel really important, like I feel like I'm doing something that's like actually helpful to society. And then I would literally wake up at 6 o'clock every morning and go to school and just feel so depressed, like so stupid. Like, why am I even here? Like, what am I even doing this for? So mentally, like a that was a struggle for me because I felt just it was just such a weird time. Um yeah, like all my friends knew about it and I was proud of it because not a lot of people get to like say that they, impacted so many people or like, even have a song with like 11 million streams, like something like shallow like that. Not a lot of people get to say that they get to do those things, but at the same time, it was so embarrassing. Like people would play my music just out of nowhere. And I'm like, please turn that off. Like, no, I don't want to hear that. Um, and like, yeah, like there was some people who definitely made fun of me for it. But it's like I had to just see that, keep in mind that like, they're not gonna like I did something that they would never get to do. And like they're gonna do stuff that I'm never gonna get to do. But the difference is I'm not gonna make fun of them for it. Um yeah, so like I was embarrassed and I did feel a bit silly because, I felt really like people would mention it and I would just be reminded that like, the world is so big, but it's at the same time really, really small. Like there's so much out there, but at like where you are, it's so inescapable, like even like I remember there was this girl in I think the grade below me or two grades below me. She like liked my music and she came up to me like at recess or something. I was like, I love your music. And she was like on the verge of crying. And I was like, do you want a hug? And like stuff like that. But it just felt so silly. Like I was sitting at recess with my friends, like trying to finish my math homework because I didn't do it. And like she was coming up to me like crying because she like loved my music and stuff like that. And it was just what was going on. And then when she left, my friends were like, that was like, because they're your friends, like they don't feel like you're anything like special. Like I'm sure Taylor Swift's friends don't like get starstruck around her. She's your friend, they're your friends. So it's like, so times like those, like the juxtaposition really like messed with my head. And I felt really strange. Yeah.
I feel like it would be like a kind of like humbling experience going to school. Like, and like, I mean, obviously you have a really big fan base, but like when you go to a school, like not everyone there's gonna know or be aware of it.
Or
So
care.
yeah, okay. And I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like school kids as well are just like that in general. Like I feel like even if you're doing something great, I feel like they'll always find a way to kind of like try
Yeah. Oh my
and
God.
hype you down a little bit. Like, what's that saying? Like the cut down like a tall poppy kind of thing. I don't remember what
Yeah.
it's called, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for sure, it would have felt like living in two different worlds
I was
almost.
like Hannah Montana. I was giving
Yeah,
Hannah Montana.
literally, Hannah Montana. That's so funny. But you're now out of high school, obviously. It's been a bit of a while. We're flash forward to now. And music seems to be a bit more of a focus for you. Actually, not more, a bit more, but like it is the focus for you. With this shift, do you feel like it's allowed you to like hone your craft a lot more, or do you still like find a little bit of a struggle like with songwriting? Because I mean, I feel like sometimes we think in our heads that like getting rid of something that's really big in our life, like work or whatnot, will help us focus on like a passion more. But sometimes, like, once you do have that passion and that's your main focus, sometimes you can still get distracted or still procrastinate or get caught up in stuff. So, yeah, I'm really interested to hear how that's kind of going for you.
Yeah, I always thought in high school, like, oh man, screw this. Like, once I'm out of high school, I'm gonna write so much music. But actually, no, the most music I've ever written was when I was in high school because it's kind of like that thing where like you go to work every day, or you go to school every day, and you're thinking about something else, and like at those times, like you're the most creative. When you have all the time in the world to do something, like if you have a year to do an assignment, you're gonna wait until the very last day. But if you have a week, like you might space it out a little bit more. It's like it's kind of like that where it's like now that I have all this time, I do find it hard to be creative. I do because you have so much time to like think about all the other things in your life. And I'm growing up, like I have so much other stuff to think about, moving out, doing my taxes, like I don't know, stuff like that that I never would even have to think about before because I was just in school. Like when you're in school, people just tell you what to do. There isn't any sort of like yeah, like high school really sucked for me, but at the same time, it was like I kind of just got to, I knew what to do. I was kind of like a machine. So, and it was such a rigid schedule, you know, like you have lunch at the same time every day, you have recess at the same time. Now it's like if I like now it's like I'll wake up at 4 p.m. and I'm like, oh shoot, the whole day is gone. Like stuff like that, you know, like there's no one telling you what to do. So it's like there's no one telling you, or there's nothing driving you to be creative because there isn't, you know, any sort of pressure in that way. Um, well, yeah, so there's that. But I feel like it's also because now that I've moved away from wanting, like now that I'm moving towards wanting to write about things in my life, I actually have to go live my life to like be able to write stuff. Like, you know, like the reason why people think that poets and artists and singers and songwriters are so troubled and stuff like that is because having deep emotion is what creates art. And it's difficult because, you know, if you're just trying to sit down and write something good, it's not going to be good if you don't actually feel anything. So like part of my work is like going out and living my life, like doing stupid things, being reckless, like to a certain degree, you know, like going to parties, meeting new people, or even just like, I don't know, like, you know, just or being lazy. Like all of that is like part of my work. And it's kind of hard to explain to people that like in order for me to be creative, I have to go live my life. So in that way, also it does make me feel less productive because, you know, back then when I'm in school, you're in school, like you're doing at least something 8 hours a day. You come home and then you can be creative and stuff like that. Now that I have all this time, it is distracting because, um, you know, like all of this time and I feel like I'm just like not being creative, but also like I'm doing all of this other stuff, which is giving me something to write about, but sometimes it like doesn't come to you. And there are like sometimes long periods of times where I feel like I just can't be creative. And back when I was in school, it's kind of like, oh, like I have school, like I'm busy, you know. But now like I'm not busy. So like it makes me feel very like, oh shoot, like I'm not being productive. I'm not, you know, like past me would be so disappointed in myself. You know, I created all this space for me to make music and I'm not even doing it kind of thing. And it can be really frustrating in that way. But also, I mean, my managers tell me to make music. So like there is like, you know, there are deadlines and stuff like that. But in general, I feel like I am a lot less not creative. I don't think that's the word, but like a lot less like I don't write as much as I used to because back then I felt so trapped. You know, I felt so sad. I felt so depressed. And like, it's not that I want to go back to that because it was a really low time in my life. Like, high school was like probably the lowest that I've ever been because it was just so difficult for me. I don't want to ever really go back to that, but it was when I felt like I was writing the best in my life. So it's kind of like, yeah, like a double edged sword. It's really like hard to balance those things.
Yeah, and I feel like because you probably felt trapped back then, it would have been like an escape for you almost, like to write and create. And I guess even though you hadn't had like the experiences that you have now, it would have felt like a kind of escaping to this like world of your like imagination kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I 100% understand like that kind of thing of you have to live your life to actually create really good art, because I feel like when you force it as well, it's never as good as it really should be. And I feel like, I mean, I obviously can't relate in terms of the songwriting level, but I mean, with this podcast, I've been slacking off a little bit lately. And I really thought that once I like graduated high school, I was going to be like so much more on top of my game. But I've realized that like I was doing it in year 12, which was like obviously
Yeah.
like probably the most intense year.
Yeah.
Um,
Why did you do that to yourself?
I don't know. No, but like I found I was a lot more productive with it because I had a routine, I had a schedule, and I was constantly motivated to do it because it was something that I enjoyed, and it was kind of like my away time from school and like
Mhm.
everything else. But now that I have like more time to myself, you'd think that like I'd be doing it every day on my grind, but I honestly like I'm living and I'm experiencing things,
Yeah.
and I find like as well like all the experiences that I'm having, I think will probably inform this like next season a bit more. I feel like
Yeah.
I back then I didn't have anything that I felt like I could offer in terms of a podcast, and I think that's why I strayed away from doing like individual ones, because I don't want to just talk about like my life, like that's so narcissistic, you know what I mean?
And
Like
yeah.
I haven't experienced as much as someone else, but I think now that like I'm learning more, it kind of helps inform that. And I guess that's similar in a respect, like it's difficult to kind of keep up with that schedule as much as you did back then, but I think now you have a lot more life experience. So yeah, it's definitely that double-edged
Yeah.
sword that you were
And
saying.
and I see you living your life. I see your little TikToks. I see you
Oh my
slaying
god.
away. Honestly,
Oh,
good for you. Like I remember when I first found out about your podcast. I don't even know how, but I was in school. Like I don't even know how. They're like, Kayla has a podcast, and I was like, what? And then the general consensus was like, why does she have a podcast? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? But no, like
yeah.
honestly, I think it's so cool, and like I'm really proud of you. And like I like like in high school, like we didn't really talk or anything, but I always knew you as like very go-getter. Like that's what I heard from teachers, from other people. Like, and it's great. Like I don't feel like a lot of people in our school, especially because we were so like our school, it wasn't the most academic, but everybody was so try hard like with their academics. Like it's not a bad thing, but there wasn't a lot of like self-expression. Like it was very like stifled, I think. And like, yeah, it just makes me really happy that you're like doing whatever you want. Like
Thank
good for
you.
you.
Same for you. Like I think, yeah, life takes us different places, and yeah, the podcast was a very spontaneous thing. It was just like a woke
That's
up one day,
so
I was
cool
like,
though.
like
Like
let
you
me
talk
let
to
me do this.
Olympians. Like what?
Love an Olympian. We love
That is
that.
so
Yeah.
cool.
I'm talking to you too. Very cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll go back to the questions. Got on a bit of a tangent there. Sorry, that was my bad. But
No.
traditionally before platforms like SoundCloud and social media, like musicians were kind of they were
No.
backed by a music label from the get-go, and that was kind of like the main avenue to gain traction for songs. I feel like it was much more of a music business as well. Like everything was really calculated in terms of like shaping a perfect pop star and whatnot. But I mean, you took the independent route, at least from the beginning. And I'm quite interested to know how you found that experience, and was it a difficult one to navigate? I think now you have management as well, which would be a different shift as well. And I'm quite interested to know how that transition's been as well.
So, yeah, I think it's like a good and a bad thing because back then only people who were talented or only people who were very beautiful or had some sort of thing could be famous, but now it's like anybody can be a musician. Anybody can be anything that they want to be because there are free distribution companies, which is like, for example, like I started on like DistroKid, which is like the most basic. Like everybody, you can put up any music you want and you're technically like a musician. Like and it's out into this like internet void where like if people find it and love it, like you can make a whole career, you could buy a whole house with it. Like it's crazy. And like it's a good and a bad thing because if it wasn't like that, there's no way that I would have even stood a chance. I'm so shy in real life. Like I feel so afraid to play in front of people. Like I don't have like that diva pop star persona that like made people famous back in the day. Your Britney Spears, your Cher. I'm not like that. So I literally would not have stood a chance. So in that way, like I'm really glad that that's an opportunity for people, for anybody who wants to do their dream, even if it's just on the side or as a hobby, or even if nobody listens. Like it feels nice. um yeah, but i I feel like it was very difficult for me. It was really, really difficult. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know anybody who works in music. um I don't come from any sort of privilege or anything like that. Like, I don't know anybody famous. I don't know anybody who has money, anything like that. My parents are just literally just regular people. They work in the middle class. Like, we don't know, I don't know any like producers. I don't know any like, management companies or anybody who could help me. So it was really, really difficult because when it came to things that like I needed help with, like after a while I would need help with like, I don't know, promoting my music. I would need help like managing my schedule or even just doing my taxes. Like I literally during high school evaded my tax for like 3 years because I didn't understand how to pay Australian tax on international income. Like who is going to explain that to a 15, 16-year-old? Like I didn't know. Like there was nobody to help me. There was no one I could ask. I could ask like all of the adult figures in my life hadn't. no idea about that. Like none of my teachers could help me, my parents couldn't help me, nobody knew. And in times like those, I really wish that I had, that I came up the regular way, because, that kind of stuff is just all completely taken care of for you. There is nothing like, the singer just has to think about singing and writing and all of the good stuff. You don't have to think about any of the stuff that's like painstaking and annoying and like confusing, and like there's legalities and jargon that you don't understand. That's why they give it to other people. But when you come up the way that I did, like just, I don't know, messing around, there's a lot of stuff that you don't think about that comes along. And I was so confused. And it's like the same way, and that it has caused some problems for me. Like people would sample my music, and people would, I would be on people's tracks, but they were always like my friends or like people that I knew or people I looked up to. So I never asked for anything when, it's my creative property, it's my creative right. Like there should have been legalities there should have been like a percentage that I got or whatever, but I just never did, because, you know I'm not going to be like, hey, you owe me stuff, but that's what like management is for. They're there to be like, to do not the dirty work, but to be like stern, and like to be, to speak on behalf of the artist of things that they don't want to say, because that's not my responsibility to, make sure that other people are doing the right thing. So yeah, like there was some stuff like I definitely was taken advantage of, like in certain ways creatively when I was younger, because there wasn't any rules in place. There wasn't anybody to help me. No one was looking out for me on my behalf. So it was really difficult in that way. And yeah, times like those, I really wished that I had people to help me. But in the same way, I could go literally a whole year without releasing anything, and there was no like repercussion. Like I could do whatever I wanted. If I didn't like a song, I could just delete it. If I liked a song, I could just put it up. Like do whatever I want. There was no such thing as like, oh, we have to have like a schedule. We're gonna post this Instagram post. We're gonna do this. Like there's like a releasing schedule and all that stuff. I just didn't care. I just did whatever I wanted. But nowadays, like I can't do stuff like that anymore. I mean, I can, but it's a bit more like complex. I've become more of like a product. If we're selling something essentially. It's sad to say that out loud, but it's true. Like all music is, like a product essentially. So yeah, there was more freedom back then, but also with the freedom came, being taken advantage of and being confused and doing things wrong. Like I got in trouble lots of times. But now it's like, yeah, other people help me with stuff like that, but it's also like you lose some of that creativity, some of that freedom, and because you loosen the reins a bit and you hand it over to other people.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear as well. I think that's typically like the kind of feedback that you hear traditionally from independent artists as well. The kind of fact that you don't always know what you're going into when you do, and the business side of things. And I think that's why obviously those big kind of labels have always been traditionally in place to kind of be the intermediary and whatnot. But yeah, there's definitely downsides, and I think as well, like as you said, you're selling a product and you're kind of handing over the reins to someone, and so in that respect, it can be like a difficult one to navigate. But I think that's the importance as well of choosing like management that works for you, and that is right for you as well, which hopefully is something that you've got as well.
Yeah.
Which I think from what I'm seeing, it looks really good. So yeah, no, very interesting to hear. But yeah, I'm really interested now to kind of move on to kind of the future of Tiffy. Are you currently planning on releasing any new music? Anything we can be excited for? I saw some nice little shots coming up. Very exciting. Yeah, take us away.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to, I don't know if the word is rebrand, but reshape my image to be more accurate to who I am now. I think I've been hiding behind the internet a little bit, and I'm just, I'm so excited. I'm so G'd. Like I'm just so excited to be myself online, and I really hope that, it's scary because like a lot of people are very attached to the old image of me, and like I'm scared that they won't like the new version of me or whatever. Not new version, but like a different representation of me, or and stuff. But I'm so excited. I'm filming my very first music video very soon. I'm like I have another EP coming on the way. And my last EP, I literally did all by myself. Like even the photos, like I took them, my sister took them in my backyard. Um, it was so like, like very like homemade and stuff like that. And there's something really beautiful about that. But with my next EP, like I'm so excited. Like I have a team, like I have people helping me and they're all so nice and good to me. And like yeah, there's so much music coming. I've written so much music since my last stuff came out. And music takes a really long time. You can write a song and it could be released like a whole year later. It takes a lot of time. But I'm really, really excited. I really want to play more shows. I'm just so excited. Like I used to be so like I have nothing to look forward to. Especially in high school, I was so like there's nothing, that I feel proud of or anything, but I'm like so excited for my future. Like I'm really, really, really excited to be growing up. And I've never really felt that way before. Growing up was something that I dreaded and I hated it. And I felt so not special anymore every time I would like, have a birthday. But now I'm just really excited for my future. And I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. And like my interests all the time they change. So maybe in like 2 months I won't want to do shows anymore, or maybe I'll stop writing for a bit, or I don't know, like I'm just excited to see myself be different. And I really hope that my music and stuff can reflect that, and that people will stick around and like listen to it. And yeah, I have a music video coming and a whole EP, so yeah, that's really exciting.
So exciting. And I think honestly, like the fact that you've kind of described like you're in a good place at the moment, I think it's really clear to see as well. I feel like you seem really happy. And you seem like this is something that's really benefiting you at the moment. So it's really nice to see, honestly. And super excited to hear what's to come, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are very excited too. But my final question for you is kind of, a little bit of a generic one, but I feel like it's a really nice one. It always is like so interesting to hear. But, if you could go back and chat to your kind of 13-year-old self, starting on this journey, young little, like naive, cute Tiffy, what would you say to her? And yeah, like, how would you go about that conversation?
you know I was thinking about this and I don't know what I would say. I don't know if I would say anything. Because in some ways I want to tell her to relax, because I did a lot of like cringy stuff because I was just so overexcited, like way too like ooh, like relax. But I don't ever feel that way anymore. I'm very like chilled out now compared to how I used to be, because I think just as you grow up, you mellow out. Um, and it was sweet. Like, a lot of people think that it's like cringe, like they look back on their younger selves and it's like cringy and stuff. But I think that I was a nice girl. Like I was just nice and cute, and like, I was excited about people paying attention to me for the first time, like to my music, to what I love to do. And like I don't oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Oh my gosh. I just feel like I shouldn't be embarrassed about that. And like I wouldn't tell her to like be any different from how she was, because I would have ended up in the same place. And I wouldn't have told her like, you're gonna be famous, you're gonna be whatever, like, because that takes away the excitement of it, like the excitement of seeing where it was gonna go and whatever. And so I think I just would have told her that I'm really proud of her and that it's gonna be okay. Like everything's gonna be okay. And because I was so sure that like my life was just gonna be a disaster. Like I thought I was never gonna amount to anything or whatever. So yeah, I think I just would have like reassured her that like it's okay, and like it's all gonna work out and you're gonna be okay. I don't know why I'm so emotional right now.
No, oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
This is the second interview this season that I've made someone cry
I'll
with this
cry.
question. I swear it's this question. It always
I
it's
don't know.
it's
Cause like
I
don't you
need
ever
to
think back like
no,
to your past
yeah.
self and you feel like, because it's like you think about like if you met like a little 13-year-old girl now who's like so excited and like
Mm,
wanted to, like live her dreams. Like
yeah.
how could you, all of the people who discouraged me, like how could you ever like do that to a little kid? Like she's just
Yeah.
trying to do what she
She
wants, you know
just,
what I mean?
yeah, wants to
So
have
it's like
fun.
I
Yeah.
I feel so emotional because like when I meet kids and like when I meet people who like I see myself in them, like it just I can't take it. Like I
Yeah.
it just it makes me so emotional and it makes me so
No,
like
I get that.
I could never like discourage them or like want them to move away from like what they wanted to do. Like it makes me so sad when I find out like people's dreams and stuff have been crushed. Like it just
Yeah.
makes me feel like crushed by like I don't know someone else, by capitalism, by like
Yeah.
all of these other things. It just makes me so depressed because it's like, you know, like how could you, there's something so innocent and pure about just wanting to do something with your life. And like,
Mhm.
you know, if like if me now, if I was still trying to, that I am still chasing my dreams, when I tell people like it's not lame anymore. Now it's like cool. It's like, oh, like you're doing what you want. That's so great. But when I told people when I was younger, like this is what I really, really want to do, they were always so like, oh, that's, you know, you need to like manage your
Mm. Pipe
expectations, like
dream,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like it was very discouraging and stuff like that. And it just makes me so sad. Like I would never say that to a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
because like
100%.
they've got stars in their eyes. And then like as you
Literally.
grow older, like I feel like they disappear, like they get so dull because of
The
everything
world.
that you learn. The world, literally. Right? And it just, I would have
Yeah.
just told her, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so great. Honestly, I feel like I was juggling so much more then than I was now. And I don't know how I got through it because, like, if that happened to me now, I don't think that I would be able to take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, she was a really strong version of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like I think like that 13-year-old self would have been like so proud of where you're at today as well.
Yeah.
Like you kind of living the dream that you wanted to kind of always live, and it's only upwards from here as well. Like it's always nice to see that as well. I think that's what always makes me like emotional the most, like thinking about like my younger self would be proud of where I'm at today. Like regardless of
Yeah.
what's going on in life, like the fact that I've like made it through, the fact that I'm like still here, I'm like there's things that are going on that are positive, and I think that's like exactly the same for you, and
Yeah.
you know you're
Even
experiencing
just
the
like
things and
the way
wanting.
that you like look. Like
Yeah.
my 13-year-old self would think I'm so pretty now. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like they would just think you're so cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
you
do all
you
this
got the
cool
glow
stuff.
up, the glow
Yeah.
up.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I feel like we just have to, you know, work towards like making that version of yourself proud and like
Mm.
honoring what you wanted at the beginning and stuff like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's such beauty in fulfilling that inner child.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah, so true. But again, thank you so so much, Tiffy. It was such so lovely speaking to you.
It was so
And
fun.
yeah, I'm so excited to get this interview out. I'm sure there's a lot of people wanting to hear from you because obviously this is your first interview.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so so much. And
No
yeah,
worries. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and having
thank
this chat.
you.